If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back, civilians, to the home of elevation, growth, and experience. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, I am the civilized woman.
That I won't allow him to play for. Whoa. This is my profession. I know what's behind the curtain. We ain't got to get back there for me to understand what's not prominent for my son. I'm not doing it.
And if he doesn't listen to you?
Who? No, you must mean owners, like not my son.
Have you told him privately who you would like for him to play for?
It's not like who I would like for him to play for. It's a couple teams that I won't allow him to play for.
The audio you just heard was of Coach Prime at the Tamron Hall show. Welcome back, civilians. I hope your week has been well. I'm coming here to talk to y'all about Shedeur Sanders. Y'all know that is, if you don't know, that is the youngest son of Deion Sanders, his youngest child too. Shedeur is Coach Prime's last child. Of Deion Sanders, a Hall of Fame football player, NFL player, turned coach. Shedeur, it would be seen as a fall from grace because he was a top 10 prospect. So he went from top 10 prospect to 144th pick in the NFL draft, in the 2025 NFL draft. And for those of y'all who may not know, that is the 5th round. So we know that a quarterback was picked first overall, a young man named Cam Ward. He went to the Tennessee Titans. He's out of Miami, and that's Miami, University of Miami, for those of you who may not know, the U. So Shedeur was seen by some experts as the second best quarterback in the league. So for him to plummet all the way down was really surprising. I would imagine humbling, based on his pedigree and his upbringing. Now, I will say this. Shedeur grew up in a level of privilege to me that his father did not, right? His father is a phenomenal athlete, a two-sport athlete on the professional level. That is not an easy thing to do, both the football and baseball. That is beyond phenomenal. So imagine you have a father that has that kind of pedigree and you're coming after him and tackling one of the sports that he is a Hall of Famer in. That's kind of a tough bag to follow. And out of all of Coach Prime's children, Shedeur to me seems to be the most like him. Not only is he like a copy and paste, he looks just like his daddy, but even his mannerism and the things that he does. Now, Coach Prime was on the defensive end of the football. Shedeur is on the offensive end of the football. So your mentality, depending on the side of the ball you play on, is going to differ as well. So we're going to explore why I think he fell, and then just what hopefully he can learn from this to make him better at what he does. So there were about 5 teams that really needed a quarterback. I mean, you want to have as many options in all the positions as possible in football, but there were 5 teams that really needed a quarterback, and that includes the team that ended up drafting him in the 5th round, and that is the Cleveland Browns. So why did all these teams pass up Shedeur? Why did they pass him up? I mean, his number is retired. His father retired his number in Travis Hunter's number at Colorado. So why did he drop so far? So here's number one reason why I think that he dropped as low as he did. I don't doubt that Shedeur has talent, but I don't know if you can say that he rivaled that of even people in his class. To me, Shedeur comes across as sheltered and protected in a way that he probably would not be if his father has not been his coach all of his playing life. I don't think this young man has ever played for anybody else other than his father. So I don't know if he knows what that is like to hear another voice in his ear. And to not come into a situation not from a place of privilege, understanding that you're a rookie and you're starting at square one. Number one, not doing the combine is a problem. I don't understand why he did not do the combine. I'm very, very confused by that, because what that gives an air of is that I don't need to do what everybody else do. I'm already there. It's like he's riding the wave of his father's accomplishments and he's yet to have his own. So I don't understand for the life of me why he did not do the combine. I don't understand why his daddy did not encourage him to do the combine. So I feel like his daddy is giving him the mentality of a defensive player, but he's on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback is the most important position, in my opinion, on the field. Although I am a defense girl, I love a good defense. But they hold the ball the most. They control the ball. Like, they can make or break your team. Now, obviously, you need everybody else around them to do their part. But if you don't have a good quarterback, it's a problem. And you need a quarterback. Yes, you want them to be confident, but you want them to be likable. You want them to be respected, and you want them to be humble. And Shedeur does not come across like Shedeur gives prime time. If you, I'm aging myself, but I don't care. Bless God for however many years he's gonna give me. But there, in the 90s, Deion Sanders had an alter ego called Primetime, and he even did a rap song called Must Be the Money, all of that, right? Shedeur kind of gives me like he's prime time. That's the vibes I get from him. And I don't know how well that's going to translate for somebody who is the one that's going to be controlling the ball and is going to be dictating where that goes. So that's number one. And quite frankly, his talent level is not up there, in my opinion, that he would need to be skipping any of the things that he needed to do. Now, he was at the combine. He didn't do any of the physical stuff. Number two, the interview process. People had there was a lot of talks about him not interviewing well. And then there was rumors that he was purposefully, tanking interviews because there were teams that he didn't want to go to. Sir, this is you trying to get a job. It don't matter. You need to put your best foot forward. Even if it's not a team that you want to go to, your reputation matters, because these teams talk to each other. So if you done met with one team and you a little janky in that interview, you better believe that somebody is checking with the next interview you gonna have. They checking to see so how did he do? Because everybody understands that you come from legacy. So there's going to be eyes on you to see, okay, how did he do here? How did he do there? It's not just about what you do on the field. It's how you present off of it as well. So if he was purposefully tanking interviews, that's a problem. If he wasn't tanking and he just wasn't good at the interviews, that's also a problem, which means that he was not prepared in the way that he needed to be prepared in order to be able to pass these interviews. So outside of just making him look good, were there any tangible things that was done to make sure that he would present himself to these people who would be making these decisions, that they would want to draft him? I'm willing to bet that his father did the combine. So I don't understand why he would not encourage his son to do the combine. I think the number two thing, so there's him opting out of doing certain things and how he presented to his teams. Number two, I think for a lot of these teams, if you get Shedeur, you're really getting Deion. And that's a problem, because if the only voice that is in his ear, the dominant voice that's in his ear is his father, if I'm a coach, if I'm a team owner, I'm concerned, is he going to listen to the people that I'm paying to coach him, so my team can be as successful as possible? Is Shedeur accustomed to hearing other voices besides his father? And can other voices speak to him and he listen and follow instructions and implement? When you have your father going on interviews talking about something, there are teams that I won't allow him to go to. I don't understand. you're basically telling your child, I don't want you to put your best. There are certain things that, like, we get that you know the game from the inside, so you know the politics and all of that. That's completely understandable, right? But at some point, Coach Prime, these young men should be raised to go out on their own and fly. And we're sticking to Shedeur. We're not going to bring Shiloh into this. Shiloh is an undrafted free agent. He went to Tampa. But we're just going to stick with Shedeur. At some point, these young men need to be able to fly on their own. Shedeur needs to be able to fly on his own. He needs to be able to make decisions. He needs to be able to hear other people voice and be able to implement, understand what they're saying to him. And if the impression is that if I'm getting Shedeur, I'm really getting Dion, and I don't know if I'm going to have Shedeur's ear, that's also another concern, especially with Dion being so dominant in terms of not just their rearing, but shaping and molding Shedeur's career. So that's completely understandable there. To me, it's understandable why teams will have apprehension of picking Shedeur. Thirdly, is Shedeur able to adapt to any system? Or is he only able to adapt to a system that is tailor-made for him by his father? Because you got to be adaptable. You're going to have different coaches. You may have one year you have one coach, and then the next year, depending on how bad y'all do, have another coach. Are you adaptable? Are you able, or are you only accustomed to playing under your father's system, which may not translate to the pros well, or may not be things that the pro want to implement? And then is your daddy, circling back again, is your daddy then going to feel the need to call somebody because he don't like the playing time you getting, or he don't like, the positions you're being put in? So these are all things that these teams are thinking. Fourthly, and probably lastly, I'll leave that there. Those four things is Shedeur doesn't seem to be singularly focused on football. He has other interests. He seems to be more interested in being famous and known, and apparently he does music as well. I mean, his daddy did that one album or one song too. So he seems to be more interested in being known than being and being famous, and being a well accomplished professional football player. There is a clip of him working out with Cam Ward, who really was his competition. There was no question that this young man was going to go number one, just based on his skill set, his build, and his work ethic. It seems like, and Shedeur is practicing with Cam, and then at some point, they're working on throws, and you can see the difference in mechanics between Cam and between Shedeur. There's a big difference between those two. And so it's like, is anybody, and who is able to tell Shedeur that you might, your mechanics may not be, you can even tell within that clip that the coach that was there was like struggling to tell him what it is. So is there really going to be anybody around who's going to give him the real, instead of thinking, oh, this is Deion Sanders' son, I don't want no problems, right? But Shedeur talks to Cam, and he's like, you don't have no other, I'm paraphrasing, but you don't have no other outlets, like, what else do you do? And Cam's like, I don't want to be known as anything else but a football player. And not saying that he don't want to accomplish anything else, but that's an aim to his singular focus, whereas Shedeur seems to be all over the place. And so I don't doubt that Shedeur can be successful. I think a few things has to happen in order to ensure that success happens. And his father is going to have to be willing to be hands off. He just needs to be dad and not coach, and not somebody orchestrating things behind the scenes and being a stage father, but he's going to have to be hands off, and he's going to have to trust that he has put enough knowledge in his son. Not that his son can't come to him, but he gives right now the vibes of, I definitely will be in somebody's front office if I feel like y'all not doing, or calling coaches, or using Connect to connect with coaches if I feel like my son is not in an advantageous position. And Cam Ward's father can't do that. None of the other quarterbacks can do that. So you have 5 teams that's passed up your son. This should be a very humbling experience. So you have the Giants, who was in need of quarterback, and they pick an edge rusher. That's a defensive player. You have the Browns, who had the 5th pick, the team that picked him. I mean, they have quarterbacks on their roster, but they were in need of a quarterback as well, and they pick a defensive tackle. You have the Jets that was at number 7, who's in need of a quarterback, and they pick an offensive tackle. So that's somebody on the offensive side of the ball. So you have there was the Raiders, I believe, that the Steelers was another team. Coach Tomlin, who I think would have been would be great for him. And I think would be able to kind of keep, Coach Prime at bay in terms of kind of being his business. And I feel like Coach Prime would not feel the need to interfere as much if he went to somebody like Coach Tomlin in Pittsburgh. But they chose a defensive tackle. So you have all these teams that was ahead that needed a quarterback, but they passed him. So I'm hoping that this experience humbles Shedeur enough that, and the whole family, really, Coach Prime even, that he'll be hands off and allow them people to do their job. Also, that Shedeur would understand that things are not going to be handed to him, and he is going to have to work like everybody else to do what needs to be done. And if he really wants to be able to, which he is completely capable of, in my opinion, of being able to be a great, as he called himself, legendary in the NFL, then he's going to need to buckle up, Buttercup, and really work his tail off and not come across as a diva. Now, the great thing is that the people in Cleveland are very excited to have him. Hopefully he makes the final roster and they keep him, and, he's able to start his career there, and, and just prove, all these other teams wrong that passed him up, right? Like, Tom Brady was the 199th pick. There were 6 quarterbacks that was picked before him that don't nobody know who they were, who they are. They didn't make no mark, and yet Tom Brady went on to have this Hall of Fame career and win all these Super Bowls and be this prolific player. So to me, where you are picked in the draft ultimately does not matter. Is what you do once you get there, and how things can change, because you can have somebody picked at number 1 and not fulfill their entire capabilities to be a Hall of Famer in the NFL. So he can completely turn this around, but he has to decide if he really truly wants to be legendary in this game, or if he just wants to come in, get notoriety and get publicity and popularity, and then whatever happens, he does football, he doesn't do football, he does well, he doesn't do well, it doesn't ultimately matter. So only time will tell, but those are my thoughts as to why Shedeur fell the way he fell in the draft. And I'm going to come back, because I don't care how short that video is. I'm going to do a video about that little boy who played that Falcons coach, who played that little prank and caused Shedeur acting like they were from the Saints and they were drafting him. That foolishness. So that I don't care if that's 1 second. I'm going to do a whole separate video about that, because that was nonsense. But I'm going to leave this here for now. Until next time, y'all. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.